Today, I'm going to bring you an episode with Kurtis Lee Thomas of Breathwork Detox. And this interview, quite literally, could change your life in 1 hour. He's going to talk about this modality that is the fastest way to radical transformation that exists on the planet. Here's why. It turns out that stuck is a feeling, not a fact. Low energy is also a feeling. There's no such thing as low energy in a human being. Only a dead body has a lack of energy. If you're feeling stagnant and stuck, it's because something is blocking the flow of your energy through the channels. Your energy moves through your body in channels or circuits, just like your blood flows through arteries and veins. And your emotions, unresolved emotions, block those channels like kinks in a garden hose that won't let the water flow through. And the more unresolved, unprocessed emotions that you have, the more blocked you get, the lower your energy levels, the harder it is, the deeper the funk, the longer your funk lasts, the harder it is to push through. So if you are sick of feeling stuck and being held hostage by moods that come on and they seem unpredictable and uncontrollable, this episode is for you. Kurtis, thank you so much for being here. Would you do the honors and introduce yourself to my audience? Tell us who you are, what you do, and maybe why you do it.
Okay. Thank you for having me, first of all. So Kurtis Lee Thomas, that's my name. And I'm a corporate mindfulness trainer and also a breathwork trainer. So I've been, on the path for a really long time and, started out as a certified life coach and NLP practitioner, motivational speaker, Reiki master. And I became this certification collector. And I landed on something called breathwork. And I took all those skill sets and experiences and put them into my own signature modality, which is breathwork detox. And that's what I'm bringing to the world at the moment.
So I've done breath work and I had done breath work before you. I have to tell you that your breath work, your brand of breath work is so incredibly powerful. The energy that you bring to it is just like nothing I've ever seen or experienced, even though I've had wonderful experiences and still do. But what I want to do is kind of break down for the audience what breath work is, because I know I had taught yoga for 20 years. I also am a collector of certificates and certifications, a lot of letters, but it wasn't until I started doing breath work that I feel like all of that started to make more sense on just a cellular level. And I noticed not just from the experience of breath work, but from the habit of doing breath work on a regular basis, that there were so many things shifting for me in subtle, beautiful ways. So can you talk a little bit about what your brand of breath work is and why it's different? And if people don't know what it is, then they for sure do not know what it is. Like, it is way out there.
Yeah. Most people don't. Like, once I found this and I was going to yogis, they've been practicing for 20, 30 years. They're teachers with studios. And I'm like, hey, have you tried breath work? And they're like, yeah, I've, been to India. I've done pranayama for 15 years. And I'm like, yeah, but have you done this breath work? And like, yeah. I was like, well, just do it with me. Then they do it with me and they're like, oh my God, like, I didn't even know that existed, and then they go and get certified by me, which is like so amazing. And once I realized that people in this community who have, been in it for so many years, didn't know about this. This is when I realized I was like, okay, I have to bring this to the world because people really don't know. And, I think that's the biggest misconception about what I do is that people think they already did it. And, you said it best, right? There's, breath, we all do the breath, right? Every single day. But breath work, right? What is that? And it's, my modality is deep diaphragmatic breathing. And what that means is breathing deep down into your belly, in through the mouth, out through the mouth, right? That's the technique. And, if you get a room full of people and you say, okay, on the count of 3, I want everyone to breathe, in their body as much as they can. And 1, 2, 3, you'll see everyone take a deep breath and their chest, their clavicles, their shoulders, everything moves up here and the belly stays still. And that's actually called paradoxical breathing. We're meant to breathe into our bellies. And if you watch a dog or a baby, watch a baby breathe, the baby takes the breath and the belly moves. Well, why doesn't it happen with adults? And, 95% of the people, when I have them do that exercise, they don't breathe into the bellies. And the reason is because something happens to us and it's called life. Life happens to us, and our diaphragms get tense, they get trauma stuck in them, and they don't move. And so all the breath's staying up here and it's really not going deep down into the belly. And the belly is really, it's our magical center. It is literally the place in the body where all the energy comes in and comes out. And in Chinese medicine, it's known as the wind gate, which is behind the belly button. And then also 80% of our immune system is produced in our belly, and 80% of our serotonin is produced in our belly. That's 80% of everyone's health and their happiness is in their belly. And we're not breathing down into the belly. And there's also some subconscious things going on. So if you ever notice when people get, stressed and they're going through something, they put weight, and it's usually around the belly and hips area. And that is our place of vulnerability. So we'll subconsciously do that as a protection mechanism so people can't see our guilt and our shame. So there's so many things going on, including, I think the one that is probably a little bit strange for most because, Western medicine doesn't acknowledge it, but we have these energy centers in our body. And the best way I can explain this in layman's terms is we all agree that we have blood in our body. We can't see it, right now, but we can see how it travels, right? And how does it travel? Through veins and arteries. That's how it gets distributed. Well, we can all agree that we have energy in our body. Right? We're made up of more energy than we are matter. And, people can walk in a room or meet a person and be like, they give me good vibes, right? It's all energy. You can get 10 dead people and you're not going to be able to tell which one was confident or which one, because it's energy. You're reading the energy. So how does that energy get distributed throughout the body? And that's what I didn't know. And the energy gets distributed throughout the body through something called nadis. And the nadis are energetic pathways. They're energetic highways. And there's 72,000 of them throughout the body. And there's actually one place in the body where all the nadis intersect. And they call it the Times Square of your energy system. And guess where?
Oh,
your belly.
Choice, belly button.
Yeah, the belly. So when you have a blockage in your belly, so many issues can arise. And that's how I even got into breath work. I had a blockage behind my belly. I went to every doctor, did every test, colonoscopy, endoscopy, pill cameras. I swallowed like 3 of those things and multiple tests, and nobody could find anything. They couldn't diagnose me. They couldn't fix me. And it wasn't until I found this one ancient breathing technique of deep diaphragmatic breathing, and one session completely eradicated my stomach condition. So it just blew my mind. And I was just like, oh my God, how is this possible? I went to the jungle and drank ayahuasca 20 times and it still didn't fix me. And this little breathing technique is what did it. And that's what put me on the path.
Well, I'd like to bring a couple of things in. First of all, I have never done like the ayahuasca. That was on my bucket list. I wanted to do that. And now I would do that just because, but I don't need to because I do breath work. Like this idea that you have to fly to Costa Rica and shit your brains out with ayahuasca, like to get healing, that is a pathway. And I've heard amazing stories, but I don't need to do it anymore because I have found the breath work. And then the other thing I wanted to weave in is the bridge between physical healing and the energy in our body. I mean, your book talks about your stomach conditions and the search that you had for healing and all the doctors and the pills and all of this. And then the idea that one breathwork session could heal you, it's a little unbelievable, although I completely believe it because I've experienced similar things. But can you talk to the audience a little bit about the connection between energy blockages, like what causes those? How do you know if you have them? And then what's the connection between energy blockages and physical health?
Yeah, great question. I would say that, first of all, what causes it? The body is a living library of experiences, and the body keeps score. So like if you just take when you were little and we experienced trauma. Now, trauma today is different than trauma when we were 7 years old or 8 years old. So when you were younger, maybe you got pushed off the swing by a bully, or you didn't get picked for volleyball and you felt a certain way. And that's traumatic for a child. And as us, we're like, who cares? Get over it. No big deal. But as a child, it's everything. And these traumas, what they do is they build up. And if we don't have the emotional intelligence, when we're young to process these emotions, then it stores in the body and then it begins to compound. And the problem is, lifes and all these things start adding up, and now you got a heartbreak to throw in there, and now you got a foreclosure and a bankruptcy. It's like, and it just keeps building and building and building and building. And when it gets too much, then the body becomes not at ease, dis-ease, and these things can pile up. It's just like, you talked about blockages. Just think about water. Water is meant to flow, right? It's meant to flow. And if water is not flowing as it's supposed to naturally in a certain direction, and let's just say something gets in the way, there's a little blockage, and now that water that can't flow, it hits that blockage, and now it's still going to go, but it needs to go in another direction. And it's going in another direction it's not supposed to. And when it goes in another direction it's not supposed to, it's like energy in our body is supposed to flow in a certain way. And when there's blockages, it either gets blocked and backed up and it starts going in other areas. And this is the reason why people feel uncomfortable in their own bodies. If people were to tap in and say, hey, where do you feel discomfort? They're going to feel it in their solar plexus. They're going to feel it in their throat, in their belly. So it's different for everybody. But this is what a blockage can do. Now, if the water isn't flowing and it's just say it's stopped, like think about water in a pond. What does it do? It starts to collect mold and mildew and like this green crap, and it begins to smell, and it attracts these bugs, and that's our energy. And that's what the Chinese medicine will call, like, they'll call it damp area. They'll use the temperatures. So we have to remove the junk and the gunk, right? Which is suppressed emotions. That's what it is. Like if you look at emotions is energy in motion. And when that is not in motion, that's what it gets stuck. You heard people say, I don't know, like I just feel stuck. I feel stuck. Well, where do you feel stuck? And it's typically because the energy in the body isn't flowing. You're not stuck in your mind. It's actually the body. And that was a big distinction for me, because when I cleared the blockage in my belly, I got more energy. I became smarter. My IQ went up, and, even my emotional intelligence. And that's because there's a connection between your gut and your brain. And I think we've all heard the gut brain connection. And, your intuition, they'll say your gut feeling. They don't say your elbow feeling or your knuckle feeling, right? It's your gut feeling. There's intelligence within that gut. So when you have those blockages, you feel fatigued, you don't feel as sharp, and you feel, just foggy. And I felt like that for 5 years. And it wasn't until, it began to clear up and my health came back, and I just became more on point, became more productive just in business and in life. So, those blockages. So how do you know if you have them? Really simple. I just remember one day I was sitting down. I was like, why do I feel like crap? I literally sat down and said, why do I feel like crap? And when I sat down and closed my eyes and I said, where in my body do I feel like crap? And then for the first time ever, I went right down and I was like, it's in my gut. It's in my belly. And it took me probably a few years to realize that I could localize it. And that's just because I'm just busy, just trying to get through the day. And, you can go in, just tap in and just feel, where do you feel heavy? Maybe it's in your shoulders, maybe it's in your hips. It's different for everybody. So people, really just have to become in tune, like know thyself. And, I think that was the biggest discovery that I had. It was that the reason why these doctors couldn't tell me what was wrong with me, because my issue wasn't physical. Even though I had all these physical symptoms and issues, my issue was emotional. It was energetic.
Can you talk a little bit about other experiences? You deal with a lot of people. So you had a stomach issue, but what other sorts of issues have you seen either instantly or quickly resolved? Especially given this audience is middle-aged women, between the ages of 40 to 60, also maybe drinking too much. What sort of things have you seen when working with people that you could speak to the transformation?
So that's the thing. When you're dealing with energy and you're dealing with the breath in the body, it's the breath becomes the doctor, the healer, because it knows more than me. I'll bring people through the experience, and your body and the breath will prescribe what it needs. So the list of quite frankly miracles that I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
miracles. I'll tell you a couple, and they're pretty crazy. so,
We like crazy.
so one of them, and these are the ones that impressed me. Mind you, there's hundreds of other ones that just became normal to me, but these are the ones like, wow. So there's two girls, two ladies. They came to one of my events, and they came together. And one of them been to my virtual, and the other one, just was their first time. So they're both lying down and they're breathing. And while they're breathing, you do go into this like transcendental, space, this trance space. And the girl next to her, her friend, her father came to her in the vision. It was like, my daughter has cancer and she's not telling anybody. And this girl, she's not psychic. She's not intuitive. She's none of those things. She's like, what is happening right now? And, this is what happened. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, but don't worry. She's going to be okay. And the other girl who was breathing, and mind you, they listen to music. They're not communicating. The other girl who was breathing, she was like, oh my God, I can't keep this a secret anymore. I need to tell people what I'm going through. So they come out of the experience, and then the girl with the cancer says, I need to tell you something. And the other girl's like, no. I need to tell you something. And like, no. Going back and forth. They're like, I'm just going to say, your dad came to me and said that you have cancer and that you're hiding it. She goes, oh my God. She starts crying. And she's like, yes, I had it. I just was afraid to tell anyone. I didn't want people to judge me or think I was dying. And so this experience happens. And remember, the father said she's going to be okay. She goes home from that breath work. Now I have no idea what type of cancer or anything. I'm not a doctor. She goes home from that breath work and she goes to the bathroom. And the next thing you know, she had her tumor inside the toilet and she released it and she got rid of it. Now, to me, that's like one of those stories is like, wow, like that is just all encompassing, miraculous story. And that was at the top of my list. And then as far as that'd be physical, what it can do physical. As far as emotional, forgiveness is a big thing, and even that sounds, underrated. But they say forgiveness is the most selfish thing that you can do because it's the greatest thing that you can do for yourself. And when people hold on to grudges, they are holding on to pain. And one of the greatest stories was Mark Victor Hansen. He wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul with Jack Canfield. And I did a men's retreat in Tucson, Arizona. And he was there along with some other pretty cool people. And he came up to me afterwards. He's like, hey, I need to talk to you. I was like, hey, what's up? And he's just staring at me and he's not really saying much. And then I'm like, are you okay? He goes, yeah, I'm actually processing. Can I have your email? I'm like, sure, take my email. And he reaches out to me maybe 2 weeks later and he sends me this long email and he's like, this is one of like the godfathers of personal development, right? He actually has a Guinness Book World Record of most books sold for personal development, which is 500,000, which is, what is that? No, 500 million, 500 million books, which is unbelievable. And he has all these tools and he's like, listen, man, I've been trying to heal and forgive this person for 30 years. And I have not been able to do it. I've done Tony Robbins seminars. I did all this stuff. He said one session of breathwork detox allowed me to finally forgive this person and let go. He goes, I feel liberated. And I just want to thank you so much. And to me, that was huge. And the first thing in my mind is like, wow, like that's so beautiful. And the second thing is like, please let me use this testimonial. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, sure. Like, it's on my website so people can go see it. Yeah, man. And just, I can spend this whole podcast telling you all these stories. And the bottom line is there's no limits to what it can do for you because you're energetically clearing out all the trauma and all the blockages that's been blocking you from your manifestations, whether that's money, whether that's love, whether that's health and healing. It's different for everybody.
What is it that does this work? Because the commonalities that I hear in your story with going to breath work the first time, you didn't go there to necessarily heal your stomach. That was just what happened. And then the cancer, and then the story of the chicken soup guy. Like the breath work is doing something outside of our conscious awareness. Is it the technique that does it? Because my personal experience, this is kind of gross, but I feel like it's like blowing a roto-rooter that's like I'm getting my pipes clean, and I don't even know. I just trust I just do it. I don't even know what I'm letting go of. I don't set an intention. I don't know how it works. I just know, oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know. My personal belief is I think that, I don't know where the heck breathwork was and why the world doesn't know about this. It's like, I'm like, it still blows my mind, but I believe it's coming more popular now because it's the bridge between Eastern and Western medicine.
Yeah.
And, there's, people have issues and they go to the doctors and the doctor looks for all these physical symptoms and he treats the physical symptoms. And I won't get into, when you take the pill and then this fixes that and then this breaks that and now you got to do this. We won't get into that. But what I believe is that a lot of our issues, majority, I'll say majority, because I think there's science to back this up now, is energetic and emotional rather than physical. And yeah, go to the doctors. You might have physical issues, but that's the problem. But where was the cause? What caused it? That's why I love books like Louise Hay, and she, connects certain physical ailments to certain parts of the body. And, I know Harvard did a study and they said that 60 to 90% of all doctor's visits are stress related.
Mm-hmm.
And when stress goes unchecked, it turns into anxiety. And when anxiety goes unchecked, it manifests into all these things and wreaks havoc on our nervous system. And of course, we need to be physically healthy, right? Physically fit and eat the right food and drink enough water and all those things. But that's like everyone should be doing that. But I think a lot of the issues is energetic and emotional. And there's nothing that I've done. Mind you, I'm a hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, sports science, fitness professional, all these different skill sets. And nothing goes and cleans out your emotions. There's no detox tea you can go take that clears out your emotions. There's no
Yeah.
pill they can give you that clears out your emotion. It actually will do the opposite. It'll suppress them so you don't feel them, or it'll cut off your highs and cut off your lows, such as an antidepressant. But nothing actually fixes the problem. It's like a lot of these things, mow the lawn, and you mow the lawn, you're like, oh, my lawn looks beautiful. It's great, right? And then what happens? The weeds grow back, and then you mow it again. But how about ripping the weeds out from the root, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in. And
Yeah.
that's what I feel like breathwork does is it helps get to the root cause. And sometimes when you're doing the breathwork, your vibration is raising so fast. Sometimes you can even hear like ringing in your ears when you're doing the breath work because your vibration's going so high. And then all of a sudden your consciousness begins to raise and elevate. And you actually go into something called transient hypofrontality. And that's like this flow state. So a lot of answers that you've been looking for that have been right under your nose, they become available to you because they now become to the forefront or come from the behind the screen of your awareness with the breath. And then you see what you've been looking for. You see the issue, you see the problem. And that's the thing with healing that I noticed is that sometimes all you need to do is shine awareness on a certain situation or area and it'll just like melt away. It's like if your problem is like this dark, hardened wax cave. And, if you go in there with just this torch in your hand and you just stand there, eventually that torch is just going to begin to melt the issue.
Yeah.
You don't need to fix it. You don't need to do this or that or take this retreat or do any of these things. If you just hold that flame, that awareness to the situation, it will begin to melt away and it'll begin to heal itself. That is the innate healing ability that every single one of us have that I believe is overlooked.
I like what you're saying about vibration or frequency, because I think where we get stuck with either physical ailments or emotional problems is we're trying to solve problems that actually wouldn't exist on another frequency. So to your point with melting the wax of the dark cave, like if you get to a place where there's so much light and you have energy and you're higher levels of consciousness focusing on bigger things, you realize all the mental math that you spent trying to figure out how to forgive somebody, like that just stops being a thing, because why would you hold it against them or yourself? It's like you're trying to solve the wrong problem. The problem wouldn't exist if your energy was different.
Well, I'm smiling the whole time you're saying that, because every listener, whoever's listening to this right now, Colleen just gave you the secret sauce. Like that is literally the secret of the universe. That is the secret. If there's one secret to changing your life, it is exactly what she just said. It is a vibration game. And now when you start to get into like vibration, frequency, like what is this? Some woo-woo stuff? No, it's like even Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it.
Yeah.
So when you raise your awareness and your consciousness, the problems change. In fact, if you really want to, gnaw on this for a little bit, if you stay at the same vibration and you wake up in the morning, you have that same day, you're on that timeline. Now, if you begin to raise your vibration, let's just say one day you just raise your vibration, just a couple more octaves higher. When you wake up that next day, you're having a completely different day than the day before, meaning you're going to get different text messages, different emails. People are going to talk to you in different ways. You're going to get different phone calls with opportunities, an invitation to this place. Your reality shifts. That's completely contingent upon your vibration. And there's this guy Bashar who talks a lot about like these infinite timelines, and you decide which timeline you are by the vibration that you're at. So it is the game. And I constantly remind myself, like, all right, don't try to fix this or fix this. Raise your vibration and begin to just call things forth. Like even manifesting. I don't like that. My whole book that you had in front of you is, it's all manifesting, but I look at manifesting different. Like you don't have to manifest and create anything, because everything you already want, it already exists. Yeah. And if you hit that right vibration and frequency, it just comes into your life effortlessly. And it's the game.
Well, and I think what really changed my perception of manifestation was, what is our frequency? It's what we frequently see. And you can only see, out of 100,000 things, you're only paying attention to 10. And so this idea of what you said, well, your day is completely different. Well, technically you're walking through the same world with the same stimuli, but you're seeing something different. You're interpreting things different. You're paying attention. And that is what then creates where your attention goes, where your energy goes. And it allows you to manifest. You see opportunities, or you see an opportunity to learn instead of a problem or a mistake or a setback. It changes the way you see neutral reality. And so this idea that you can use breath work to instantly, last time I did breath work, I swear I was high for like 4 days. I'm just waking up in the morning, the level of endorphins or just feel good feelingness it was just completely different. And I just absolutely believe in first changing my energy before I ever put my brain to work, because I don't need to solve problems that don't exist.
I love that. Yeah. I had these t-shirts made after my events, and it said, get high on your own supply. And you absolutely feel amazing in those endorphins, the serotonin, the dopamine. Is like these things are firing off. And I think that's what people love about breathwork, and this is why it's exploding, because also, unlike yoga and meditation, the results of breathwork are immediate and undeniable from one session. And things like yoga, meditation, like you need to accumulate those that consistency to be able to see those results. There's not too many things that you can do and you get immediate results. Like you can't go to the gym one time and get a six pack. So, but the people expect that. They want that magic pill, because we do live in a microwave society. People want to see results and they want to see them fast, and it just doesn't exist. And with breathwork, it does exist. In one session, you will feel the power of breathwork, and you will know from one moment to the next that you have this power inside of you that's organic, natural technology that can completely change your state. I just seen Tony Robbins last weekend in Las Vegas. He was doing a show out there. The whole thing, he's like, listen, you want to change your life. There's one thing that you can do. He's like, change your state. Change your state. Now, this is very similar to what we're talking about. Raise your vibration, right? Changing your state. You change your state, you'll want to do different things. You'll want to show up a different way. And there's nothing that I've done that you don't have to ingest or drink, and that is breath work.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you as a former professional drinker, heavyweight class, um, there is no high that is better. I used to be like, yeah, yoga will relax me. That and a bottle of wine works every time. I never, maybe I enjoyed it when I was doing the activity, but it didn't linger. It wasn't like it didn't really change my frequency. It felt good, and certainly it raised endorphins, made you strong, all of that. But breath work is like the most, I've not ever done a lot of drugs, but I can only imagine, well, alcohol's a drug, but I can only imagine there is no stronger experience that you can have, and it is non-drug induced. And the cool thing is you can shut it off right in the middle of it if you're not having, like, I've had one out of probably 100 breath works that I was like, something, and I didn't push through it. I just stopped, and that was fine. You can do that. And I really like, there's no side effects.
Yeah.
There's no danger. If you get dizzy and pass out, well, good. Because you're laying down. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've done it with 90-year-old ladies. They're completely fine. Everybody's in control of their own experience. So you can speed up the rocket ship and blast off to outer space and talk to your dead grandmother or whatever. There's so many things. Or you can do a low and slow and control your experience and just feel more of the bliss that you feel during a session. So yeah, it is completely up to the person.
I have a couple questions, but one of them I want you to just touch on, and that is the pineal gland. You talked about the gal with cancer who had a vision, and we have equated this with ayahuasca journeys. Can you talk about how this really is very similar to a drug-induced experience because of the pineal gland and whatever is released in the brain?
Yeah. So your pineal gland is also known as your third eye, right? It's this little, gland, behind your forehead, lower forehead, and it secretes something called dimethyltryptamine. And that's what's responsible for making you dream at night, right? It's the world's greatest, virtual reality system where it's so real. You think it's real until you wake up and you're like, oh, and it's natural. And it also gets secreted through the lungs. So hasn't been too many studies, but I've talked to some neuroscientists about this, and it's been said that more DMT is actually produced in the lungs than the pineal gland. So when you do this active breath work, it begins to secrete the methyltryptamine, but not when you're sleeping, when you're awake. So now you begin to have these lucid experiences and you be able to activate your third eye and you see visions because the breath work is activating the methyltryptamine that's produced in the lungs, and it begins to microdose in your system just enough where it's like you're not blasting off in another dimension. You come back and be like, where am I? You're fully in control. And that is more of a mystical experience because there's mystical things you can't really explain that happens in breath work. But this is one of the reasons why people feel profound connections, like just to the universe. And it's like, it is like a drug, and you just wake up, you just feel connected to everybody there, more love, more compassion, and just that oneness. And I think that also has to do with that transient hypofrontality when that prefrontal cortex is quieting down, because that's also the part of the brain that judges. It says, you're you, I'm me, the separation, this is good, this is bad. And when that judgment goes down, along with this microdose of DMT, you just feel this oneness and connection that you didn't have. And that's why it's like a reset where you're unplugging and then plugging back in at the same time.
Yeah. So I did one of your breath works recently, and you gave the best introduction and talking about how you do have to push through the inner judge, the inner critic. And I have two experiences where I get to meet my mind face to face. One of them's breath work before I break through, and the other one is before I get in a cold plunge, where my mind just like, wait. Let me tell you, we don't have time for this. We got to go. So those are the two areas where I get to meet my mind and instantly push through to get to the other side of that. So talk a little bit about, so that, I mean, this is the part that I love, is like setting expectations. Like, this is not a breathing class. This is fucking breath work. And you are going to have to push through. You do have to work for these experiences that we're talking about. Can you talk about the time and the effort and what that experience is like, especially for somebody that's never did it, what they can expect in their first session?
Yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly. It's called breath work. And anything in healing or modality or spirituality that has the word work after it, shadow work, breath work, like, you're going to have to put in some work. So, but the thing is, it's worth it. It's far more worth it. And you're going to get out of breath work what you put in. So I call it like an ATM, right? You're going to get out of an ATM what you put in it. Same thing with breath work. So, if you push through, like you mentioned, I think earlier, right before you have the breakthrough in breath work, right? Everyone hits this, I call it the glass ceiling, but really it's the peak resistance. And we could talk about the resistance in a second. And when you hit that peak resistance, the first thing is like, oh shit, this sucks. Why am I doing this? This is
This
stupid.
sucks. Yeah, that's what I
And
think.
you meet yourself, you meet that aspect of yourself, and everyone's given two choices at that moment. You push through, breathe through, break through, and step into accelerated growth within your life, or you feel that discomfort and you step back into your comfort zone, to your safety zone, where nothing grows, right? There's no awesome opportunities. Things stay the same there. And that's fine too. But everybody makes that choice. And my job as a facilitator is to get you to push through, breathe through, break through, and get out of the comfort zone, because that's where all the magic is. That's where the change happens. That's where the transformation happens. So I spend a lot of time in the beginning explaining things, but I'm not just explaining the technique. I'm doing subconscious surgery. I'm setting the context. The breath work is the content. The context is what's important, because that's what's going to allow you to disarm those triggers that's in your brain that's going to try to slow you or stop you or prevent you from having your breakthrough. Now, what is this thing that wants to prevent us from having a breakthrough? That's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother podcast, because is this your ego? Is this the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder? Like, what is it? The best way I can explain it, there's a book called, I think it was The Art of War. The Art of War. So the whole book talks about resistance. And, resistance is the devil, right? Because resistance is what prevents you from doing things you want to do. A lot of people know what to do, but they don't do what they know. They're going through life with one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. They know where they want to go, but they can't seem to get there. It's the resistance that's stopping them. Right? It's no devil. It's no this. It's not there. It's the resistance. And resistance is what also kind of makes you bite your tongue when you should say, I'm sorry, or makes you bite your tongue when you should say, I love you, and express yourself. It's the resistance. And, you can call it the ego or whatever, but when that resistance rises and you meet that resistance, all it wants to do is bring you back into your comfort zone. And, that's just the place we don't want to live. We have to continue expanding our comfort zone. And breathwork will definitely, you will meet your resistance, and you will have that choice to go back in your comfort zone or breathe through to break through. So yeah, I have to agree with you that the two times that I feel the same and, meet myself is right before I go, into a cold plunge, which I do every single day, well, 5 days a week. And, in breath work right before you have that huge breakthrough. And it's just the resistance, and you gotta face it, and you gotta like
Yeah.
push past it and not let it just overtake you.
But I will say, as somebody who's been a student of all sorts of modalities, this is actually the easiest hard thing you can do with the fastest results. Like, if you can embrace the suck of a cold plunge for a couple minutes, I mean, that'll get you there. But I don't think it's the same thing with how powerful the breath is through the body. But just training yourself to push through and seeing yourself as somebody who does push through. I think we just lose confidence in ourselves over time. We forget that we're fucking badasses, and you have to create experiences for yourself to experience yourself as a badass, and this would be one of them. But honestly, in my experience, it's about 8 minutes. I mean, where I just want to keep stopping, where I have to continue, where I haven't lost myself, and then it's like you shoot through, and then I want to go all night, and it's like knock knock, it's time to go. So it is the easiest thing that is the hardest thing that you can do with the fastest results. I love what you said too. Like, you want the results instantly, your six pack at the gym. That's at least 6 weeks away, assuming that you're, doing it all right, and, you're building some new muscles. This is like 8 minutes away. 8 minutes.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down. It's the easiest hard thing you can do with the fastest results. I'm going to quote you on that one.
We'll play with it a little bit. Well, Kurtis, can you tell the audience how to find you? I will put your link in the show notes, whatever.
Yeah. So, me personally, if you want to reach out to me, I think Instagram is probably the easiest way, which is Man from the Stars. Just go on Instagram, type in Man from the Stars. That's one way. And then also, if they want to experience Breathwork Detox, we do virtual events every 2 weeks, and you can log on from anywhere in the world. And you can find that on breathworkdetox.com.
Well, I highly recommend that experience. And I've done breath work before, and I've got to say, you have obviously, something very special about you. It is like almost a Tony Robbins. Like, by the time we get going, I'm like, yeah, bring me the suck. You do a really good job, and your music, you bring as much energy to support that process as possible. So I highly recommend your breathworkdetox.com for anybody that wants the easiest, fastest, hardest thing you can do to break through. So thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for being here, Kurtis.
Thank you so much.